Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Rioch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Talk to Brazil is a leading business podcast, talks to business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Rioch, known as the King of Networking, connecting people from my studio in Brazil. Joining us again today from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Alex Foessel. He's managing partner at Balanced Engineering. He's a market technology strategy specialist, ag innovation, and off-the-road and commercial vehicle automation expert. Alex, thanks for being here again. The last time we spoke about AI in off-the-road equipment. There seems to be no end in the use of AI in innovation, right? Not only in equipment, but in everything. AI in agro is not only in machines. So are we still at the beginning of the curve?
Good morning, Tom. First of all, thank you for having me again. Yes, we're just at the beginning of the curve, and that is because the amount of possibilities of using artificial intelligence for not only the equipment, but the business of growers, and also for all of the other businesses that are part of the agriculture ecosystem, or I'm going to say more broadly, off-road applications, including construction, mining, and others, is endless. I just came back this week from another conference from the Association of Equipment Manufacturers that includes companies that build machines from all over the world. You will find there Komatsu and Cummins and Kubota and John Deere and Case New Holland, AGCO, and many, many others, right? And this association has this conference called Product Safety and Stewardship. And one of the key things is that this year, for the first time, we had multiple talks focused on artificial intelligence. Last year, I believe that our talk was just the only one that had the title AI,
right?
Because we wanted to bring awareness. This year, in addition to our talk that is not only talking about and bringing awareness, but we wanted to present some of the progress in creating tools to better integrate artificial intelligent components.
Well, just to remind our
machines.
listeners, when we talked last year, it was exactly the inception of AI, but you did mention, we did cover the part of safety. But just to remind our listeners, when we're talking about the off-road equipment, you're talking also of equipment that's driverless. It's autonomous. And so we're talking about safety. It's not the safety of the driver, the pilot, the whoever. It's the safety in the system that's running a machine that doesn't have anybody in it.
Correct. And that's thank you for the reminder. The use of artificial intelligence, and by the way, artificial intelligence is a phrase that has been so used in so many contexts. That is, it means something different to every person.
I agree.
So maybe one of the first things that I would like is that I heard one of the first presentations during the conference about AI, but was much more in the area of how do you face this explosion of services and platforms related to generative AI. And I'm thinking of ChatGPT being the most known, but many, many other platforms that are providing services to create visual images, videos, etc. And by the way, I would like to point then later to another use that we have found fantastic, very, very good for some of these tools. That is a very practical application in training. But coming back to the conference, okay, so Bruce Raza presents these tools in how you can compose music, and you can write text, and you can do analytics, and there's all of these applications from a business perspective.
Right.
So I said, Bruce, I'd like to ask you a favor. Would you authorize me to pick one of your slides, one that defines terminology, and I'm going to attach it to my presentation so we can actually provide some clarity to the audience.
Right.
Well, you were talking about this AI, and we were going to be talking about this other AI, which is much more product related.
Right.
Because I believe that it is our responsibility, Tom, for those of us working in the area, to provide clarity, to reduce ambiguity, and to explain to the audiences, or whenever we can have a conversation, that AI is a very, very broad field, and we need to maybe focus a little bit more in the different manifestations of it so we can address that more effectively.
No, I agree. I can imagine. You mentioned all of the manufacturers that were present, all right, that are today manufacturing equipment. And so my question to you, obviously, when we have conferences like this, when we have associations that get everybody around a table, at one point you're trying to reach for commonality. Obviously, everybody has their own strategy, commercial strategy. They want their own innovation. But when we're talking about safety, safety needs to be inherent of everything. So there should be a need for some type of standardization amongst all of the different products.
That is correct. And that is one of the topics that we were discussing. Because, for example, I could build a machine that is going to be significantly more effective. I can build a machine that will use less fuel, one that is going to be maybe more intuitive to interact with. And I can sell to the market, hey, this is how my product is better, faster.
It's your competitive edge.
But it's very difficult that I'm going to come out and expose myself and say, my product by far is the safest in the industry.
Right.
Because if something were to go wrong, you would be in a pretty difficult place. That's why manufacturers get together and they, as you well said, create standards. The challenge is that the standards that were created to produce, to engineer, develop safe machines, Tom, are becoming to some extent a bit obsolete.
Right.
Good news is that there's a lot of work happening. And actually my business partner, Rick Wires, he is part of these conversations to update standards and also to produce new standards that are going to be tackling, okay, how are we going to build safe robotic equipment? So then farmers, growers, bystanders, mechanics, the person that drives the truck with fuel, whoever is working around machines, whether in construction work sites or in farm fields, they will know that they can approach a robotic tractor, combine, etc., or an excavator, and they will be able to very easily understand in which state that machine is, and also what the machine is going to go do next. So the more we standardize that language or signage or lights or sounds between machines and humans, we're going to have significantly safer and effective interaction and collaboration between robotic machines and people.
Well, your explanation is clear. My question is along the line, have all these manufacturers bought into that? Does everybody believe that's the way? That's a good question.
I believe that if you ask them, they will say, yes, of course we buy into that. The question is, do we all understand the same thing? And that is what I was reflecting, that first we need to be very clear and very precise in how we use the language so we can understand what is it that we're talking about.
Right.
Because if you think of, let's say, one thing is to make sure that a module that has a neural network that is well trained to detect bystanders so the machine stop is very different from, for example, the analytics agents. Sorry, I'm using a technical word, but the analytic software that is going to be analyzing, for example, the agronomics, weather, etc., to recommend what and where to apply chemicals in a farm field. That is also AI, and we can say both are AI, but the implications in terms of safety are very different. Both of them very important, right? And then, of course, you have many other things like, there is now more and more AI integrated into financial tools for running a business. And
what you're saying is absolutely amazing, because this coming week now we have the Agri Show here in Brazil, in Ribeirão Preto, which is the center of exposition of machines and whatever. And I just today, this morning, just saw an article of the use of drones. And many, let's say, farm equipment manufacturers are now turned to manufacturing drones. So where you may have a equipment that used to apply pesticides on wheels or tracks, now they're all flying around. And so when you get that, one thing is that it's on a track or on wheels and it's going through the field. But now you can fly them over everywhere, and you can apply pesticides or fertilizers or whatever. And so that's a whole different challenge. I said, wow, I'm still from the nuts and bolts times where you talk about standardization, you were talking about alloys, you were talking about hard things that you can see and test. Today, I'm not even sure how you can test all these things.
Oh, Tom, absolutely. So first of all, just a side comment. Certainly drones are becoming used for application, but one thing that we need to consider is that today the operational deployment of drones to do application is limited compared to the coverage that the larger machines do. However, we have areas, and Brazil has much of that, areas that are very slopey hills, or areas that require precise application, and drones are finding the right places to be used.
Well, that is exactly the example that I saw of really applying a pesticide in 15 square meters out in the corner of a field. Because the machine couldn't get there or didn't or whatever, and so you just send your drone out and a couple squirts and you're done.
And also drones have the fantastic ability to map real fast. And companies like Foessel are using drones to map where the cane fields have gaps, so that then they can direct the equipment that is going to plant cane in just those areas to have a very productive cane field.
But back to our beginning, AI's in everything. AI's in that.
Yes, but actually, let me address real quick one topic you just brought, and that is, how do we test? How do we know that, for example, a neural network has been trained correctly so that we know that it's going to be effective at detecting bystanders? That is exactly what some of us are, just focused to understand. What are the engineering steps? What are the best practices to define the type of network, to gather the training data, to gather the test data, and then to test this in a very methodical way so we understand, well, is it effective at detecting, for example, children in a crop? Okay, we're going to test that, and we use tools such as we contaminate the images a little bit, we make them more diffuse, so that we see, is the AI still detecting that kid? If it is, it's great. But if it's not, then we need to go back and retrain the network or do something in order to strengthen that ability to detect children so the machines can protect people. That is one example. So, and as to the commitment, every equipment company is committed to safety. The challenge that we have now is that we have newer technologies and we don't have the tools. But rest assured, Tom, that many of us are just doubling down our focus to work.
I can see from our last conversation, and I see that on your site from Balanced Engineering. That's your focus. I understand that it's a challenge. You need energy, you need understanding, you need intelligence, you need real intelligence to help understand what the artificial intelligence is involved in all of that. So from a company-wide view and from Balanced Engineering, one of the things I see then, that you try to find advanced safety solutions. So you're really keying in on that, right?
Correct, yes. And this is for now applied to equipment, to machines, right? But we have colleagues working in automotive, we have colleagues working in AI. And by the way, appreciate reading that note about the UN declaration stating that there is a need for frameworks.
Right.
Even though all of AIs are maybe different, but at the end of the day, we're still talking about the safety and well-being of us humans.
Very good.
And the environment.
Well, Alex, I want to thank you for coming. We're running the end of our time. But again, I want to share with our listeners that we both are members of the Future Advisory Board here in Campinas. You're in Pittsburgh. You've had a long, productive life here in Brazil. We've met, and I want to look forward to meeting you again when you're back here at the upcoming Campinas Innovation Week in June. So I hope to see you there, and we can talk more about artificial intelligence.
Oh, Tom, I'm really, really excited to see Campinas continue to stand up and bring more and more focus on all of the innovation that is happening in Campinas. And you can count that I will be there, and I'll be very happy to talk about the multiple tracks and the multiple topics that are going to be covered during that fantastic event.
You can be sure we're going to be talking before that, okay? So where can our listeners find you?
Well, first of all, with your podcasts, but then, of course, on LinkedIn, Alex Foessel. And if not, always you can write to me at alex.foessel, Foessel, at balanced.llc.
Very good. Well, thanks again for being here.
Tom, have a great day. Thank you for talking to me.
And for our listeners, it's Alex, A-L-E-X, the last name Foessel. You find him at balance.llc. Talk to Brazil is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural research specialist here in the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, focusmi.com. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Tom Rioch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.